You can save 15% or more at Amazon when you pay with Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash. Just go to purse.bogosity.tv. You can set your own discount. 5% gets you fastest delivery, or you can set it to 30% or more if you're not in a hurry. Purse makes it so easy to save money at Amazon by buying with crypto. Just go to purse.bogosity.tv and start saving now. Welcome to the Bogosity podcast for the week of August 11th, 2019. The podcast that likes to sing about the Moona and the Juna and the Springa. This is your host, Shane Killian, and returning this week is Charles Thomas. Welcome back, Charlie.
It has been a while. How are you doing, people?
Good to have co-hosts back. This is a lot better than just me yammering.
Well, but it's always nice to do that, once in a while, because you don't want someone to ramble on and on and on. Oh, crap, I'm doing it right now.
Let's transmogrify the news of the Bogus. So let's start with an update in the epic Craig Wright saga. I mean, he's pretty much the only guy we know for sure is not Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. When prominent crypto activist Roger Ver called him a fraud for claiming it, instead of proving he's Satoshi, which would be stupidly easy for the real Satoshi to do, he decided instead to sue him. Because that's usually the rational response to something like that, isn't it?
Okay, that's one way to do it.
Of course, he's far from the only person Wright has sued. As we've covered, he's just kind of sue-happy about anyone who claims that he's not Satoshi. And Wright claimed, quote, "The defamatory attacks by Roger Ver damaged my integrity within the United Kingdom's community of business people with whom I primarily deal. Being labeled a fraud has a repellent effect with regard to future business. If people view me as a fraud, my proficiency as a computer scientist, as well as my life's work, will be called into question. Moreover, no one would reasonably enter into business dealings with someone thought to be a fraud." Well, maybe the problem is that you are a fraud?
Oh, no. Just go into government. They love those guys immensely.
Yeah. So the Australian Craig Wright sued American Roger Ver in the UK. So this is a case of venue shopping that's so obvious, not even the UK courts could deny it. Judge Matthew Nicklin ruled that the UK was not the proper venue and that the US would be more appropriate.
Well, obviously. If this is a problem in the United States and Bitcoin, wouldn't that be the best place to do it?
Well, see, he wanted to do it in the UK because they have very lax libel laws. Like, they don't even have truth as a defense to libel and slander.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be a lot harder for him to sue him in the US, because if he sues Ver in the US, all Ver has to do is claim that it's true, and so he'll be singing Craig Wright is a fraud all over the internet all over again.
Then we just go through this stuff over and over again.
The judge also found that there was no evidence of any harm whatsoever to Wright's reputation as the result of Ver's tweet. I think what he actually found that Wright doesn't really have a reputation, but that might be a different thing entirely. But he ruled, quote, "The evidence demonstrates clearly that the claimant enjoys a global reputation, the vast majority of which was generated before he moved to the UK. It is impossible for the claimant to divide his reputation into neat jurisdictions. It is clearly global. In my judgment, the claimant's evidence as to the extent of harm that the publications have caused or are likely to cause is weak, lacks detail, and his filings put forward evidence at a level of generality that is almost entirely speculative. There is no objective evidence of any harm to reputation in England and Wales."
But it's not going to stop him from doing anything.
Well, it's going to stop him in the UK, so it's over for now. We'll have to see if Wright actually has the stones to sue him in the US.
Never discount a person with a lot of time, money, and, just the knowingness to be wrong. So, because this is the United States, Shane, you can sue anyone for anything.
Yeah. Of course, it would be a lot easier if he would just sign something with one of the private keys known to belong to Satoshi, but, it would take 30 seconds. But if you're not really Satoshi, that's kind of hard, so I guess suing is your only option. So it really looks like Wright's actions are in a downward spiral. We'll keep watching, if only for the spectacle of it all. Ads are annoying, but ad blockers prevent publishers from making money. What if you could support your favorite websites, YouTube creators, Twitch streamers, social accounts, and many more ad-free and without paying anything, and even make some money yourself. It's not a pipe dream, it's airtime. Go to airtime.bogosity.tv and get the browser extension, and you'll earn cryptocurrency for the sites you visit, and so will the publisher. This is not a crypto miner. You and the publisher will both get part of the reward from current miners of the BitTube cryptocurrency, with no middleman taking a cut. Even if the publisher hasn't signed up yet, his tube will be put into a dedicated wallet that he can claim upon sign up. You can also use your tube to tip publishers and even purchase products. Airtime monetizes users and publishers with no ads or crypto miners. Go to airtime.bogosity.tv and start making money now. Say, if you're tired of the promos in this podcast, well, the patrons got it early and with no ads or promos. Just go to patreon.bogosity.tv and donate at any level. So it's time to be inundated with yet more calls for gun control after a couple of tragic shootings, but what the news media never seems to want to cover is how much better we'd be protected by the presence of armed citizens.
Well, again, they don't know the actual, the size, scope, and by the way, I love the fact people who are so anti-police also would say the only people with guns need to be police. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, right. It's like that meme where the guy is sweating because he can't decide between the two buttons. And one is like, you can't trust the police, and the other is only police should be armed or something like that.
Yeah. They want the illusion of security. And that's what it is.
And oddly enough, USA Today, of all places, has made themselves an exception with an opinion piece by Eric Pratt, Senior Vice President of Gun Owners for America. So I want to say a few words about Gun Owners of America first. They're a great organization. Every gun guy I know or have talked to loves them and hates the NRA. The NRA is basically shills for Republicans. They really seem like controlled opposition because they've advocated one form after another of gun control for years. I mean, to hear the news media talk, the NRA is behind all of this pro-Second Amendment activism. It's all just astroturfing. Yet I really don't know very many gun people who like them.
Yeah, there's a lot more gun organizations than the NRA. It just seems like the NRA has morphed into this, like, boogeyman. Like, people believe if we take down the NRA, the world will be a better place. It's not that simple.
Yeah, and so GOA and even other organizations like Jews for the Preservation of Firearm Ownership, they're much more principled and focused solely on gun rights, even at times when the NRA has supported anti-gun legislation. And so if you're an anti-gun person whining on and on about the NRA, just stop it already. You're making yourself look completely stupid.
I wouldn't say that. It's the media itself. These analysts from the media telling them what to think, how to feel, instead of, using the great thing they have on their phones, the internet, to look at the information, to see what these things, but.
But I mean, it's like you have these pro-Second Amendment rallies. The counter-protesters show up with all these signs, that are against the NRA, and they say, why do you love the NRA? They're like, we don't love the NRA. We hate the NRA. And
those are the ones that don't get aired.
Yeah.
They'll just say, again, the news media will fire anyone that suits their agenda. So.
Yeah, so again, good on USA Today for publishing this. Pratt pointed out that guns are used to save lives every day, although you'd never know it by watching the national news media. But he gives a couple of examples where an armed citizen stopped a mass shooting at a McDonald's in Alabama, and another man stopped a racist gunman at a Kroger in Kentucky.
Yeah, again, we just want to make sure people are safe, but yet these are things that keep people safe. It's frustrating that people who will continue repeating the same arguing points. I keep this stuff on Twitter and Facebook and everything else, and they just keep repeating the same thing. What about the UK? What about Australia? What about this, that? You're like, it goes through one side, out the other. They don't want to listen. It's just like they have that narrative. And it just goes right back to talking points. It goes right back to this type of demagoguing, same type of stuff that is prevalent. It's just repeating the same things over and over again.
He also referenced the CDC data that we covered showing that guns are used 16 to 100 times more often to protect life than they are to take it. Information the CDC managed to keep buried for almost 20 years before a researcher ran across it.
They already have done the research and such. It's just that it didn't do the research that they wanted to see. Like, I talked to someone saying, yeah, the United States should become more fascist than it is to give it all guns. Says, yes, just to protect people. I'm like, you do realize if you do that, like people like myself and you and anyone else would be even more danger. I explain that to him. So, oh, that's another separate issue.
Well, and you live in Baltimore, don't you?
No, I live in next to Baltimore. I live next to.
Okay, but that same area, so that's kind of a double whammy. That area is just.
I live near like DC and Baltimore, so
yeah.
And I look in Baltimore and I see the corrupt cops. I see the entire city, most of the city, just in decay and ruination, and I'm just sitting here. It's kind of funny. When I look in that time framework, it says you want the police and more authorities to have more power when they can't even make sure a city like Baltimore, who is the people are nice, smart, and everything else around them, schools are failing, the police are corrupt and horrible, and all the ills. They live in filth down there, and yet they will say, let's just continue working with the same people in authority. It's downright insane. And then when people do speak up, they're shushed down. The same people who say, we want to listen to everybody. They don't want to hear what they have to say.
More examples cited by Pratt is the Houston man who fought off 5 home invaders with an AK-47, a Florida man who used an AR-15 to fight off 7 intruders, and a Maryland bomb scared away 3 burglars from her home just by chambering around in her AR-15. And there really is no doubt about it, this good guy with a gun story is no myth. And also note that these victims were facing multiple attackers, so they absolutely did need firearms that held several rounds.
Again, the illusion of security, people will fall in love with that, or use the data to fit their own ends.
And he also pointed out that 90% of police officers agree that mass shootings would be reduced, if not avoided altogether, by the presence of armed citizens.
And getting rid of gun-free zones. People who want mass murder say, hey, you know what? Here's a place where there's no chance that there's anyone to fight back at.
Yeah, it's like everyone says, how many mass shootings occur at gun shows?
I mean, it's fear about, guns, about these type of subjects. I mean, I don't own or any gun, but at least I'm like, okay, it's an inanimate object. It is the person who wields that thing. And if you want to say, okay, there are some people who are mentally where they can't handle that type of stuff, okay, fine. But I do not want to just take rights away for someone who is like, don't just want to protect them families. And I'm like, fine, let them have a gun. But once you get like governments involved, I look at what happened looking in Baltimore and other places, the corruption. And I'm like, are you really want them to have that much more power? Do you want them to continue on hurting and destroying lives? And if the answer is yes, then I don't know what else I can tell you.
So many good points by Pratt, all with supporting links, and kudos to USA Today for publishing it.
Yes, yeah, they deserve that.
If you're on the Wi-Fi in a coffee shop or hotel, anyone on that network can get your traffic. Do you really trust all of those strangers? For that matter, do you really trust your ISP? A VPN can protect you from prying eyes, disguise your location, and even foil government censors. It's essential in this day and age, so go to vpn.bogosity.tv and you'll be taken to BoxPN. Starting at just $2.99 a month, you can get unlimited high-speed connections to VPN servers all over the world, and they don't log connections, so your privacy is assured. Traveling abroad, just VPN home, and don't worry about what those other governments are doing. Back at home, stop your ISP from traffic shaping and messing with the quality internet access you're paying good money for. You can connect from multiple machines at once, including your smartphone or tablet, and it supports all the secure standards, including OpenVPN and SSTP. Bypass censors and surveillance with your own secure VPN connection. Go to vpn.bogosity.tv. Now, this is a story all about how the screams of monopolization by the economically ignorant just don't hold water. AT&T, who enjoyed a monopoly of telephone service until the courts ordered their breakup in 1982 and remains one of the larger telecom services, including local government-granted monopoly power in many areas of the country, just can't seem to get a successful streaming service going. They just posted a loss of more than 778,000 traditional video subscribers and another 168,000 added streaming services.
Well, I think it's mainly because of one, content, and two, they don't know what they're doing. And now, hopefully, with supposedly AT&T Now, which is going to be another service, it's confusing, to say the least.
And their monopolistic mergers with DirecTV and Time Warner left them $67 billion and $86 billion in debt, respectively, more than $150 billion all total. And the service you were talking about, it's called AT&T TV Now. All it is a rebranding. They're removing the DirecTV name.
Oh yeah. When I look at the all the other stuff they're doing, they have AT&T TV. You have HBO Now. They're gonna have HBO Max in the next couple months. I mean, next year.
Yeah. AT&T Watch TV and AT&T TV, which is different from AT&T TV Now. And it's also like, because this has confused me for a while. You have HBO Go, which is for those with cable, HBO Now, which is for those without, and then whatever HBO Max is and how it's different. It's like, what?
It's confusion because they don't have any focus. They don't have anyone sitting there and have a plan. You look and say Disney, at least Disney Plus, their content will probably not be as massive as it once people thought it was going to be. But at least they have, a plan? Well,
at least it's going to be like one Disney streaming service and not Disney this, Disney that, and just confusion all around. And AT&T and Verizon as well, they're both trying to topple Google and Facebook in this department, and they just can't seem to do it. And the reason seems to be that these companies have been propped up by government for so long, they don't know how to handle real competition when they come up against it.
Well, I'm not surprised. Are you surprised when you're given everything by, state legislators to basically ice out any competition, or when they do get competition, kneecap it every chance they get, we'll make sure that no one really competes against you. Don't worry. And now when you're in the free market, you have to have competition. They're not even close to being prepared. They have no idea.
It's like TechDirt's Carl Bode said, "It's frankly hard for pampered monopolies to seriously compete because, with the exception of some tepid non-price competition in wireless, actual hard-nosed competition is alien phrenology to them, as are innovation, disruption, and quick adaptation. Companies like AT&T and Verizon have spent 30 years responding to competition by lobbying government to make life hell for their competitors at every turn. And because giants like AT&T all but own numerous federal and state lawmakers, that's routinely been pretty easy. That's not going to work in a streaming space where actual competition is starting to explode." And I mean, it is a problem when AT&T can't even come up with a good name for it, so it's hard to disagree with them.
Too much stuff. They're fractured. They have no plan. That's the problem. By the time they do get it, it's going to be a lot of firings, a lot of people, people losing their jobs. And that to me is going to, when they finally are going to get it, it's going to be a very painful process until they do.
Well, if nothing else, they're going to have to do something better than changing their name. And I think they might have actually been better off getting rid of the AT&T brand and making it all DirecTV. We live in a world where light bulbs connect to the internet, and recent attacks on them prove that your online security is under threat like never before. Not only your websites, but the internet-enabled devices you buy. And the biggest problem is weak passwords. That's why you need LastPass. LastPass allows you to randomly generate strong, unique passwords on the web and on your internet-enabled devices, all protected by one master password. LastPass sets up in minutes and gives you secure automatic logins throughout the web, synchronizing across all your browsers, all your computers, and even your mobile devices, at home, at work, or on the road. It even securely stores sensitive form data, including credit card numbers, backup sensitive documents, software licenses, Wi-Fi logins, and more. And with LastPass Premium, you can get these benefits on other applications, manage passwords for your entire family, and also get priority customer support. Sign up at password.bogosity.tv for a free month of LastPass Premium. Log in securely everywhere using the last password you'll ever have to remember. Go to password.bogosity.tv and get LastPass now. And now it's time to underutilize this week's biggest Bogon emitter. And it's another ridiculous lawsuit as a couple of greedy money grubbers, and I'm not even going to mention their names, try to go after the Microsoft-owned website GitHub, which is one of the major repositories of free and open source software, as well as a lot of other content created by its users. They're suing because, as we covered last week, someone was able to hack Capital One's database and steal the personal information of more than 100 million users.
Oh, wow. 100 million people. I like the fact that this happens. Because, hey, why talk about, the person who stole this data? You should be going to jail. No, let's, could you imagine someone's going on a television station? Do you sue them, or do you sue Twitter? Do you sue the person who owned it, for example, filming the camera or something? They're just sitting there having a random day, looking at the park, and the next, bam, this thing shows up. You spread that information. I'm like, no, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, but you could justify suing Capital One because their IT people were telling them, I think for months, if not years, that these problems were there and needed to be fixed, and they neglected to fix them, so you can make a negligence claim against Capital One. But why sue GitHub? Well, these rapacious pigs are suing them because, get this, the hacker who broke into Capital One and stole all that data has an account there.
So that's why. So just sue the guy who sue the person who has this stuff because they have an account. So
the woman who did it, actually.
Yeah, the woman who did this. So we got to sue them because reasons.
Yeah. And they are spewing Bogosity all over the place. They're saying that California law and industry standards require GitHub to remove social security numbers and other personal information from its site, which they claim was there for 3 months. They also claim that GitHub is in violation of the Federal Wiretap Act, as well as being guilty of negligence per se, and violating California's civil code. The problem is, none of that data, none of the social security numbers or anything else was ever stored anywhere on GitHub.
Oh, so pretty much this whole suing thing is pointless then.
Well, it's Microsoft. It's a deep pocket.
So, yeah.
Yeah. A GitHub spokesperson told ZDNet, quote, "The file posted on GitHub in this incident did not contain any social security numbers, bank account information, or any other reportedly stolen personal information. We received a request from Capital One to remove content containing information about the methods used to steal the data, which we took down promptly after receiving their request." Kind of reminds me when that one racist mass shooter, I think it was, and it turned out he had an account on Gab, and so now we have to go after Gab because of this one guy and take him down.
Then again, and by that logic, then we should be taking down Facebook, Twitter, probably Google itself, because he used Google once upon, maybe, he was on Google Chrome. You can't just go around taking down every single thing, because again, he used this, he used that, so no, these are tools. The person at the end of the day is responsible for doing these acts. Find the person who did the act. Now, don't go after the tools. Go after the person.
And they also assert that GitHub actively encourages hacking, sort of like, Gab being a place for white supremacists and things like that. They point to a repository named Awesome Hacking, where you can get resources for things like bug bounties, fuzzing, pen testing, reverse engineering, and many other things. But those are all things you do to secure software and networks. They're how you find bugs and security holes so you can close them. It's like I said before, there's really no difference between a hacking tool and a security tool. Either way, you're looking for bugs, whether to exploit them or to fix them. It's the same tools, and they're apparently just trying to blow a lot of smoke, hoping to fool a judge that doesn't know anything about either cybersecurity or Section 230.
Again, it's tools. You don't go after the tools, you go after the person who acted upon them and such. And, at the end of the day, the person who did this horrible crime, they're the ones who are responsible, not the ways and such,
So all of that makes these gluttons, as well as their shyster ambulance chasers, this week's biggest Bogon emitter.
Do you have children, or nieces or nephews? Are you homeschooling, or just want to counter some of the socialist indoctrination most children get in school? If so, go to bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins, and you'll be taken to a website where you can get some great books for elementary-age children. The Tuttle Twins books are books about liberty and free market economics that include children's versions of Bastiat's The Law, Leonard Read's I, Pencil, and Hayek's The Road to Serfdom, as well as books about the Federal Reserve and how regulations protect business cronies. They'll learn about the harm caused by eminent domain, or regulations passed in the name of safety, and fundamental concepts of liberty. And as you can see from the sample pages on the website, they're all easy to read and nicely illustrated. They're just $9.99 a piece, or get a special discount as well as free bonuses when you purchase all 5. You can even buy in bulk to donate to schools and local libraries. So get the Tuttle Twins books at bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins.
And now let's mislocate this week's
Idiot Extraordinaire.
And this week it goes to Curt James Brockway, who has been charged with a felony after physically assaulting a 13-year-old boy. Why? Because the boy didn't remove his hat for the national anthem.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this could be the person who is our, not just the biggest idiot of the year, probably biggest a-hole of the year. Because honestly, this is attacking a child.
Yeah. It took place at a rodeo at the Mineral County Fair in Superior, Montana. The anthem began. Brockway told the boy to remove his hat, and the boy responded with an expletive. Brockway then grabbed the boy by his throat, lifted him into the air, and slammed him to the ground, leaving him with bleeding ears and a skull fracture.
Wow, seriously, choke slamming him, cracking his skull, because hey, that's how you make sure that kid never learns the lesson and such.
Well, the boy was choppered to Sacred Heart Children's Hospital in Spokane and was later released. I didn't get any details about his condition after that. I'm assuming released means he's pretty much okay, and hopefully he doesn't have any lasting injuries from it.
Yeah.
Because, a skull fracture is nothing to play around with.
And here's the worst part. That kid could have died. He could have been killed. And he's, out right now.
Well, he's scheduled for arraignment on August 14th. If he's convicted of assaulting a minor, he could get up to 5 years in prison.
5 years? Really?
I know, it seems like it should be more, but,
But that's...
Considering most murderers get out in 6.5,
once you start attacking a child, 13 years old, I'm hopeful this kid is going to be all right and such, but once you assault a kid, I think you should be, if it's 100% you, if the kid died, then I'm like, 10, 20 years and such. But since this kid seemed to be okay, I would say not only he gets served the maximum, when he's in there, he gets like some therapy or something to make sure that this, he realizes what he has done and tries to correct that type of behavior.
Well, unfortunately, in our prisons, not only does there not seem to be many options for therapy, the whole thing seems to be set up to be psychological torture in the first place. And we've heard from Dave Turcotte firsthand about how terrible anger management actually is. He said he actually wasn't that angry a person until he was forced to go through anger management.
So I don't know what else to do in that situation. Because when I go to events, there are some people people my age and such who don't take their hats off or somewhere. I'm not going to go out there and beat the crap out of them or stuff like that, I honestly, the reason why he did all this is supposedly because he's trying to protect the integrity of the country. The country integrity is not going to crumble and crack if someone doesn't take off their hat. If the integrity of the United States is going to crack and crumble because one kid didn't take his hat for the national anthem, that means the integrity of the country is not only weak, it doesn't exist in the first place.
Yeah, and this is kind of that right-wing, my country, right or wrong thing, which brought an interesting question to my head. What would have happened if it had been a MAGA hat?
Oh.
Because we've seen people attacked by leftists just for wearing a MAGA hat. That might have been some kind of, universal, antimatter explosion or something like that.
Oh, yeah. They would have just been,
No one would have known if they're supposed to be for it or against it.
Exactly. And when you have Brockway here, this dude who chokeslammed a kid just because he didn't take off his hat, that person should be locked up. And honestly, we should look and say, okay, why did he did it? And try to correct that behavior, therapy, that sort of thing. And then again, that's another issue because, the way we treat prisons in this country, it's more revenge fantasy than actually improvement. So
yeah, if you look on Medium, someone posted a letter that Ross Ulbricht had written to Roger Ver about that very sort of thing. So go and check that out. But I'll just quote what Better Than You 134 said about this story on the Bogosity Discord. This is the same behavior that cultists have towards apostates. I don't understand why some people call libertarianism a religion when statists will beat children for failing to respect it.
True.
That's what it is. The boy attacked the guy's religion. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and heck, as a Christian, I could take the slings and arrows and I'm just fine. But some people, once you attack, say, the state, man, they will turn into the most zealot of the zealots, man. They go into this weird type of like you do not attack this guy. I'm like, dude, you need to calm down a bit.
So all of that makes Curt Brockway this week's
Idiot Extraordinaire.
Well, that wraps up this Happiest Days of Our Lives edition of the Bogosity podcast. Come to discord.bogosity.tv where you can join the discussion and post a question, statement, news article, or rant. This podcast depends on you to keep going, so please go to donate.bogosity.tv where you can give using PayPal or crypto, or subscribe at Patreon or Subscribestar to get the podcast and YouTube videos early and ad-free. You can even support this podcast for free with the airtime extension. Thank you for listening, and thanks to Charles Thomas for joining me.
No problem.
Until next time, here's a quote from Frank Herbert. When I am weaker than you, I ask you for freedom, because that is according to your principles. When I am stronger than you, I take away your freedom, because that is according to my principles. The Bogosity Podcast is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License.
Bogosity.
You can now get 2 free audiobook downloads and a 30-day free trial at audible.bogosity.tv. Your choice from the world's largest selection of over 180,000 digital audiobooks and spoken word content for your iOS or Android device, Kindle, or MP3 player. Go to audible.bogosity.tv now.
The AT&T deserve credit for taking risks, even if the path forward should have been fairly obvious about talking about like the cord cutting and such, which was years ago. Netflix and you have Amazon Prime started this stuff, and I'll put Hulu there too. This is the place I can sit there and watch all of the this great content without being a part of cable.
Well, but I mean that's an interesting thought. If you look at the different streaming services, Netflix, which has always been its own thing, and I'm just thinking from the technological aspect, they do it best. I know there were problems with a lot of political decisions they made in the company, but as far as the streaming technology is concerned, they do it best. Hulu doesn't do it quite. Amazon does it really well too with Amazon Prime. Hulu doesn't do it quite as well, I think, because they've just been propped up by so many of the big networks and stuff like that. And then you look at Sony with PlayStation Vue, which my wife really likes that because it has a lot of channels she likes. But man, the technology there sucks. And I mean, this is like friggin' Sony. They have the resources to put into it, but I guess they've just been propped up for so long. It's like they don't really know how to compete in that area.
Yeah. I'm not really surprised. It's that type of, Sony has this as Sony plays, their game consoles, good ideas, but
Sony's hardware is unbeatable. I've always liked that. Things hardware, like Sony cameras and stuff like that are just amazing and they last forever.
Yeah, but the software, that's the issue. And sometimes the software doesn't really connect well with their hardware sometimes, and then bam. And then now you have these other streaming services like Disney Plus. So hopefully we'll bring some good consistent program and such. My hope is that they start cutting down, maybe just say, instead of HBO Go and HBO Now or whatever, or AT&T Now, they're going to just slowly but surely shift people to HBO Max and stuff, saying here is a consistent, way of streaming, not like 10, 15, 20 of these. I'm surprised AT&T Universe is still a thing. I'm surprised they are still keeping that thing up.
And I mean, it's ridiculous because they got all this grant money to say, oh, we'll get Uverse together, we'll get it everywhere. Back when Uverse meant, putting in fiber. Well, now we have Uverse here, but why? Because they just renamed their slow, crappy DSL service to Uverse. So yeah, it's a whole 4 megabits. You can get.
Yeah. It just never wowed me. And I'm not really a tech guy, but I was like, no, I think Verizon is probably it is the best version, best stuff to have on the internet for the most part.
Well, I mean, if you're talking like internet connectivity, I think people are going to be really surprised when the cable companies start rolling out DOCSIS 3.1, because that's gotten no attention in the media, but it has the potential to deliver full duplex fiber level connections over the existing cables. So I think that'll be amazing when they get that going.
What is that again?
It's called DOCSIS 3.1, DOCSIS. I forget what it stands for, but it's the standard for cable internet transmissions for internet service. And like all the big cable companies use it. And the main DOCSIS 3.1, when it comes out, is going to be like 10 gigabits down and 2 gigabits up. And then they're going to make a full duplex version, which is 10 gigabits both ways. I mean, that's fiber speeds. Yeah.
And hopefully, maybe this will make sure Google Stadia won't be a complete screw up.
Maybe, but I mean, the advantage they're going to have here is they don't have to lay new cable, which is always the biggest expense. It works over the existing cable. Just a nice long strand of copper coming right into your home. There's not much that can beat that.
Why does it take so long to have actually this stuff? I guarantee you the reason why it took so long is because somebody just greased some palms and some state government to say, no, we'll keep this crappy internet here, but
Well, I mean, first of all, one thing is it does take a lot to develop this kind of thing. I mean, we're talking about really amazing technology here, but also I think it would be a lot faster if it wasn't like you just have one cable company in town. If you had your choice of 2 or 3 of them, whoever implements this first is going to grab all the subscribers, and so that's going to light a fire under the rest. But as long as you have these franchise agreements with counties and municipalities and things like that, where they're the only cable company that you have the option for, then I think that's going to be a problem.